Hello everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of May the 22nd, 28th, 2023. We have a really intense sky playing out all throughout the week, or better said, all throughout the months, going deep into June and of course July as well. But those energies have a different specific, but the intensity and this imminent feeling that we do need to break through is not really going anywhere. But this week might be especially challenging, especially tough. It's really not an easy energy from any perspective because especially at the beginning of the week we have the fixed Grand Cross formation, one of the most perhaps uncomfortable energies in astrology because it does connect intention in opposition fixed energies, and that means change is needed, very needed, especially because one of the power players holding the cross is Pluto, the planet of transformation, the planet of change, the planet which usually brings forward finalities, termination, transformation. Something is meeting its final stage and ultimately needing to transform into its next version, or its next phase, if that even makes sense. So with Pluto in the picture and of course the North Node, so collectively and both individually, the path forward, our collective future, that needs transformation, that needs changes. But of course, with Pluto involved, a lot of truth to be observed, to be accepted, sometimes embraced, and to use it in a certain way, to use it as a transformational force. The other planet that is part of this Grand Cross is Pluto's lower octave, Mars, just entered into the sign of Leo. And Mars in Leo is very comfortable. Usually it is a very intense energy in the positive sense because it motivates us, it sparks us up, it connects us that much more to our heart space, our deepest heart level feelings. Why not, with Pluto again in the picture, our heart level truth? So Mars is the activator, Mars is the planet which is responsible to power. So it highlights this area, it highlights everything that has to do with the sign of Leo. It activates it, it combusts it, if you will. But Mars is not in a very good, let's say, relationship right now with Pluto because it holds an opposition. So Mars's more higher qualities are basically absorbed or eclipsed by Pluto. And that makes us feel a little bit helpless, powerless, or it can bring on a very strong frustration. For example, we feel breakthrough, we see the need of it, we would so much love it and create it and generate it and step into that psychological but more like heart animated mood where we are the embodiers of all of that, where we take action, where we fuel everything with passion, with joy, with love of life. Leo also. But Pluto is not really permissive, for we really have to either look at very deep truths that are not gonna go anywhere, truths that might, upset the elation of Mars. It might not bode well with passion, with excitement, with self-confidence, with courage, with everything. But if all of that is a need, then you can imagine this will feel like a struggle. This will feel like, needing to be very brave when you're facing your fears, when you're facing the biggest challenges, when you're facing your weakness or certain limitations. Now, another power player who is activating this fixed Grand Cross is all that much important because it is Jupiter. Jupiter being at 1 degree, especially at the beginning of the week, of Taurus, freshly entered there. So its conjunction to the North Node is getting stronger, tighter. Jupiter expands everything. So Jupiter comes into play as justice, sense of justice, blessing. Are our needs fulfilled? But this can also be a futuristic energy, Pluto in Aquarius. It might not really speak about the immediate present, although for many people it might be the present as well, not just the future. And Jupiter expands the needs. If the needs are not being fulfilled, neither do we have a good visage, a good anticipation, Aquarius, plans, hopes that in the future chances are it's gonna be fulfilled, or let's say resources, Taurus, opportunities, love, Taurus, sensuality, siesta, pleasure, well-being, security, comfort, healing, whatever you wish in the Taurian realm is gonna come to us. Or many times it just means how should I even express this? A balanced, or what balance means for us, of course, and comfortable self-worth or value system, where we know that our values and our self-worth are more, in tune with reality. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean objective reality, which can be translated as Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, because Aquarius is the collective, the whole. What does the whole reflect back at us? But Jupiter can be very, very subjective. Jupiter is our inner truth, our faith, our beliefs, of all of our life experience process that's higher knowledge, not mercurial knowledge, as in facts, figures, logic dictates that. No, no, no. Jupiter is the philosophical knowledge. What life means for us, what life has given us personally. So our needs and this energy of the fixed Grand Cross kind of also have to reflect the inner truth. So self-worth, value system, what we think about ourselves, and exactly the biggest question, are our needs being or gonna be fulfilled? And that has a strongly a subjectivity to it. Jupiter, justice. What did we deserve? How well did we do? And how well did we do? Now, this energy is going to be a bit more active later on, perhaps not this week, but the weeks after, when Jupiter will speak in sextile with Saturn. Because Saturn brings, especially in the sign of Pisces, the reflection of the unconscious, the spirit, everything that is basically Piscean. That in itself is also kind of subjective, but a subjectivity which is deeper than objective reality. That is what really, really matters. And anytime that we align with morality, with, the spirit of communion, with empathy, with the spirit of sacrifice, the spirit of sharing, it becomes a blessing. Saturn kind of guarantees that. But later on, first, Jupiter is, really, really stressed by this Pluto, by Mars, and that automatically means this North Node as well, and the North Node's, let's say, feeling and the sense of justice is expanded, magnified, amplified. And then there is, of course, the South Node, opposing perfectly the North Node. So Mars and Pluto are squaring that as well in the sign of Scorpio. But both Mars and Pluto are ruling planets of Scorpio. So that emphasizes this all that much. Scorpio can be seen, how did we change? What is our modus operandi to get what we want, to fulfill our needs? Because Scorpio is the opposite sign of Taurus, financial axis, or axis where, we integrate our values. What kind of, for example, Scorpio, what kind of financial opportunities based on our potential speculations, our schemes, our, inner designs, what is available to us, and how strongly does that, reflect our morality. Because we might have a really, really good modus operandi. For example, some people are brilliant at marketing and advertisement and all of that. But if that is a bit immoral, like for example, you know that you're advertising a product which is really manipulative, strongly manipulative, but advertising it will get you a lot of material comfort. Now, morality. Scorpio and the South Node would require you to release the prophet. To say, well, nah, I'm not using my skills for manipulative purposes. But if, inner forces, Jupiter might, steer you into doing exactly that, as in going against morality, maybe the money will be there, but maybe you will get, feedback that maybe you're just as much of a crook as the company, the product, as whatever. So that basically can really strike at, symbolically speaking, your Jupiter. Maybe that can simply mark your sense of your own justice for a very long time. It can turn into a trauma. It can turn into you leaving the domain and basically denouncing your talent. So we don't know how fate can work under such a strong energy, but it does require us to, as I said, face our weaknesses, face our impossible even limitations that we know that are not going anywhere, that we know that we usually, and not even now, we can't, as I said, based on our old patterns, our old self, our own whatever, we can't overcome them. It's impossible. Yet the energy challenges us either to accept an alternative that ultimately is being delivered to us, or it kind of challenges us to be the alternative, to basically evade, in a sense, the impossibility of our current limitations, and somehow, like air, Aquarius, or like water, Scorpio, or like fire, or like I can't really use earth here because that is not the best example, but the north node can represent the rigidity of the earth, that the fact that I cannot use earth. But the other element, all they need is a fissure, all they need is a small crack, or all they need is persistence, and they get through the other side of the, let's say, north node in Taurus, the concrete wall that just doesn't allow us to enter into our futures. Now, Mars in Leo, if persistent, the heat, thermodynamics, sooner or later it will pass through the wall. The heat of it, the passion, Mars. But on the other side of the spectrum, well, fire can be destructive in many ways. It can, melt anything, even stone, if we take it to cosmic levels. Now, Pluto in the sign of air. Air will just pass through slowly, surely, or in certain ways, or if time is given, it will just corrode it, blow it away through winds and Uranian activities. Uranus in the sign of Taurus, corrosive, extremely corrosive. But then there is the North Node in Scorpio. The South Node in Scorpio. Water just will flow through slowly and surely, and the South Node. Or water corrodes in time everything it touches. We would be surprised that water might be, especially mists, especially, humidity, especially if there's brine in it. That is such a corroding force that, nothing can really stand in its way given time. So these are the tools that we can use, alchemically speaking, of course, to navigate through this fixed grand cross. But the feeling of it, the sensation of it, is not going to be easy, because this can be a very strong financial energy. Where do we find the money? Where do we find the resources? Where do we find what we need? But would we find it? That's absolutely wonderful, because Pluto in Aquarius, power is there, potential is there, knowledge is there, South Node in Scorpio, research, the complexity of it all, of our understanding of that is there. We just need to find a good use for it. And Mars in Leo, courage, creativity, inner child, ambition, the drive, the fire of all of it is definitely there. But, as I said, we just need to find the way to do it. A new way, an original way, an alternative way, maybe compromises, but this is where everyone with their own specifics. What is the fixity in your life? Because this kind of, everyone has everyone has Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius and Taurus in their chart. So that means everyone has certain fixities, and that is being strongly challenged. Now, people who have a strong, mutable empowerment might find this adventurous. They might not see or get to feel the fang and claw part in this, that it's so hard, it's so difficult, because they're just adept, they're flowing, they're even in a, for example, air signs. This can send some air signs into really, really chaotic mode where their mind is living chaos. It is just like a mental storm. It's a bit anxious, it's random, it's weird, it's uncomfortable, yet it prevents you from immersing into deep feelings. So it's a blessing, because air signs can find good use out of mental chaos for a short period, but this is the short period. So this is actually good. Other signs, for example, cardinal signs, well, they might have the moment of courage. They might have just one single second, a moment, but that's all they need for, like a volcanic eruption. A moment and boom. But that boom gets them to the other side of the wall or wherever they need to be, regardless of what the costs were. Because the boom will take all of their strength, perhaps, fix Grand Cross. But if they're on the other side, well, even if they have broken limbs, recuperation can commence. Mars and Leo, siesta can commence. Because that jump, that initiation, that leap of faith, that moment of courage, that was for example, the requirement. But that was where, perhaps symbolically speaking again, the jump was so hard because the obstacle was so high, you really, really didn't see yourself making it through, but you felt it, and the feeling was right. But this is just generalizing. This will really, really depend where these signs are in your personal chart, if you have any planets there, etc., etc. So, but I'm just trying to give a collective picture, because, collectively speaking, as I said, this is highly influential, even, with the spirit of everything that humanity is. So this is a really strong karmic moment, where we see it translated onto a 3D plane, where finances, the behavior of how we basically consume values or everything. This is how what we feel, what we think, about our collective future forward. This is a very strong philosophical energy as well, because this is where what really guides us and leads us collectively again is really our aspirations, our sense of justice. Jupiter is very, very much there. So in the courts of justice, this fixed grand cross will reflect. As in trials or legal solutions or big things that has been, stirred up by how humanity coped with the COVID and all of that. Now those are reflecting right now as we speak in courts of justice. What do those court rulings, new legislation, the jurisprudence solution to the cases, what does that say to us? What does that speak about? Square Pluto, one thing that it will, without a shadow of doubt, scream about: justice is strongly corrupted and in the hands of the rich and powerful, totally, fully. But that has to speak to us in different ways, perhaps. And even collectively, this is where it's not a very easy energy. Because in some parts of the world, the challenges are more material, physical, values, austerity measures. In other parts of the world, Taurus, it can be, basic needs not being met, famine, disruptions, floods, for example, agriculture being destroyed. Other parts of the world, technology, Taurus, as in Uranus in Taurus, sorry, and Pluto in Aquarius. Technology having very, very, very bad effects. Not necessarily physically, I would doubt that physically, but economically, work. How do you say that? The whole HR industry, like the whole workforce. Robots are taking, and as I said, robots are taking over, artificial intelligence is taking over, etc. This is more like a conspiracy until now. Because this is where, especially with this fixed grand cross, this is where we see the very, very first manifested, economically translatable, the facts, numbers, figures are there, situations where it's really that, the conspiracy, the theory, the prophecy, let's say, that, some people have been saying in the early 2000s. Well, it's here. And Pluto in Aquarius highlights the different sides to it. Because this is not where the robots, this is also people. They refuse to work. I'm not going to do it for that money. This is below my standards. I am not giving up my freedom. I am not going to become your slave. Sovereignty. So sometimes employers have no real, how should I say, choice but to improvise. So some industries are going to be taken over by, how should I even say this, mechanoids or artificial intelligence or robots, how you call them. But yeah, absolutely. And this isn't really bad or good. This is this is different, this is alternative. We can't even judge if it's good. Chances are it's not bad, because we can make it good. And Uranus transiting Taurus until 2026, one of the key elements here. And needless to say, Pluto transiting Aquarius. How do we make technology serve the greater good? How do we make it moral? How do we make it wholesome, if that even makes sense? How do we add spirit to it? But, most importantly, how do we respect it? How do we change our collective understanding of it? This is where the artificial intelligence should be already seen as something that will sooner or later, but sooner, will have some kind of expression of spirit. If trees are spirited and they react to other sentient living beings, but in a very intelligent and divine way, then you can imagine that something that has, let's say, a brain will react that much more. So, anyway, this is when we are getting the very, very, very first glimpses of this. Is it insanity? Is it, a collective illusion? A collective delusion? But something is definitely there. We are the judges of that Jupiter. But going back, to the other energies, because this is not just what this week is all about. There is important energy shifts. One of them I already mentioned, Mars in the sign of Leo, beginning its transit in the sign of Leo. But then the Sun has already moved into the sign of Gemini, also at the beginning of the week. No, and that in itself holds a big solution type energy, if you know what I mean. Because the Sun is gonna trine Pluto, and that's really, really strong. Because, as I said, through mind over matter, really. This is where our understanding, our intelligence, everything that we apply to adapt, Sun in Gemini, adaptability, coping, getting the best allies, the best friends, being able to trust people who we just could not associate ourselves with, we could not understand them before. Where we get our understanding by certain people were always the way they are, and we see their truth. That gives us power and new alliances. Like, I can give you a very personal example, so to speak. I am a Gemini Sun, and my Sun is basically opposing the galactic center. And that is not a very easy energy, because the galactic center is a permanent resident in the sign of Aquarius that brings certain philosophies. So basically, I could never ever understand why the universe favors passionately certain type of mystics, because we are speaking about mysticism, aren't we? Why certain mystics seems to be so lucky, so easygoing, everything flows their way, where they do not embody higher wisdom. They more embody, let's say, lower wisdom to the sense of ridiculousness. For example, Rastafarian mystics or hermits, but this is where the radical hermits who don't have a home, or let's make it simple, homeless. No papers, I'm not sure how you call that in English, but where they don't they don't have any citizenship, they don't exist legally. Who like dirt, basically. Who don't like comfort, who are sometimes even carnal, extremely carnal, like animals. But their healing strength, their wisdom, their modus operandi, and their manifestation skills, where nature treats them as VIP. Like, literally. And I say literally because I saw this so very many times. They don't really care about not having food, because 1,000,000% either a crow, a dog, a stray cat, a tree, or whatever will feed them. And this is where it's 100%. It never fails. Maybe it failed once or twice when there was a, I don't know, fixed grand cross in the sky, but it doesn't fail ever. And it's a law, it's a rule. It works for them every single time. And it's in a way easy, but is it easy? For me, who I used to be, even as a mystic, it was, like a paradox. They're not embodying evolution. They're not alchemizing in a way. As in the highest philosophy, they're not reaching for the stars. They're not reaching for the divine realm. But maybe if we see it through a Christian philosophy, But if we see it for what it truly is, well, what need do they have for philosophy? Because they are the source. You know, they are actually the source. If you want to speak to the source directly, like, source, this is my whatever, answer me, you go to these beings, and source will speak through you. The more insane the being seems to you, the better, the better. Now, I understand them so very well that I want to become them. I can't, of course, I can't, because that would mean certain demise for me. But this is where all my admiration, all my, laurels go to them. Because, yes, that is the only way to do it. So how drastically this changed me, And this is where all of us are gonna be a little bit like me. What was it that was always like a paradox to you that you could not understand fully? For example, certain people, archetypes, jobs, modus operandi, values, way of doing things, way of feeling things, emotion, love, sensuality, all of this. What is about this that you never understood? It was always a bit, like, say, repulsive to you, and now you find yourself in deep understanding and doing it. Changes, radical changes, or Sun in Gemini, adaptability. You adapt to it. Anything goes. This is where you remove your judgment, Pluto. You remove your fixity, you remove your bias, you remove everything. Naked. you get naked and as a soul, as a mind. And things happen. Good things happen. Power is there in liberty and freedom. The other expression of this energy, Pluto is retrograde, we must not forget. So we see where freedom lies, Pluto in Aquarius. And this is where we see all the bad things that freedom gives, freedom brings. And then we get to a strong sense of discipline. Gemini, the Sun in Gemini. It is that where we see the horrors of freedom when we learn to fall in love with discipline. And with Gemini, that's the middle path. That's balance. That is the Sun connecting the best of the best of the best of the twins. The divine, but also the earthly. And they become good bedfellows. Because it is exactly when we see all the bad sides of liberty, that is when we know we are not to evolve. That is the moment when you learn to distinguish evolution from an abominable mutation. You know what I mean? Mutation can be so much stronger than the evolved, but it's abominable. It's disgusting. It is a shame of nature, let's say, and there is such a thing. Trust me. So that is, especially in a collective sense, a big, 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 big moment. And I know that Pluto trines Sun, well, doesn't this happen every year? But Pluto has just recently moved into an air sign energy. So this is where this trine is strongly quantum, if that even makes sense. This is the highest, the divine intelligence playing out. Simple as that. Truly the divine intelligence. And with Pluto and Aquarius technology and everything, quantum is a big part of this. And when I say technology, there is what we think as technology. Today, my laptop, for example. But there is the real technology coming back from the deep and ancient past, where technology is just our energetic constructions. Where in thought, the power of Aquarius, we construct an energy that gains a certain life, and it will gain a shape. For example, crystalline structures. everything that Atlantis used, programming reality. You know, when Pluto was in the last degrees of Capricorn, but not getting out of Capricorn yet. So 2018, 2020, these years when there was a big hype, spiritual hype, how to program reality. Everything is frequency. Everything is just, vibe. If we program this and that into the universe through positive thinking and all that, is gonna what we get, because the universe is dumb. The universe only knows how to read frequency. Now, at that time, that was sheer utter BS. To defeat yourself. It was the temptation side of Pluto, because yes, it will work, but emotionally it will kill you. It is what it is. Now, especially the mystics who manifested their dreams in those years exactly with this methodology, good luck with your depression now. It is what it is, sorry. The price to pay. Yet Pluto highlights that exactly that is the key to build collectively the new technology. That is the technology that is going to be more relevant, something like this in the future than, just the metal of it, just electricity and metal. The intelligence that we, through our consciousness program into reality, that is the technology of the new, the next, of the future. And that is why Pluto gave us an illusionary exception of that, in order for us to see the responsibility with that, because we need to make it responsible and to the maximum harmonious with the divine feeling, with the divine intent. Hence, evolutionary astrology is one of the most beautiful tools to see what the divine intends for us. And if we align technology with the morality of it, that's where we cannot get it wrong. So this is where we will see a lot of artificial intelligence astrologers being born. Exactly what you heard. But personally, this trine is also very helpful, because friends, new acquaintances, new connections, exactly people who you never ever thought are going to be helpful to you, they save your day, they save your life, they save your situation, and you embrace something that truly feels like home. Moving on to the other energies, now, besides Mars being very uncomfortable, because on one hand it squares Jupiter, or it is being squared by Jupiter. That's not an easy energy, as I said, because it turns it into a strong frustration, or in the immediate, the sense of injustice, grave injustice, why not me? And then it opposes Pluto, powerlessness. But the cure is also in the sky, the prayer of serenity. Let us embody everything that we have power over. If it's sheer prayer, if it's just silly faith, and silly, it is a joke here, of course, then that is what we have power over. Do that. That which we do not have power over, other people's feelings, where the collective is going, where economy is going, where, for example, and excuse my, bit cruel example, because I know that this is exactly going on in a part of the world, Italy, if I'm not mistaken. If the landslide is taking away my house, how can I stop it? So I have to focus on the fact that even though this is doom and gloom, because it took away my house, but my memories, what my mom and dad and my dad, uncle, grandma, my ancestors left me, that is buried. It took away the toys of my children. It took away all my pictures, my everything. It took away everything, let's say. And you cannot be happy about that. Because, okay, non-materialistic, it's absolutely fine. Because chances are the government or the divine or something is going to get you another home, another possessions. But the memory, the wedding ring, the picture, your ritualistic tools, the wine, the pickles, those are bye-bye forever. That is a bit of your soul, in a literal sense, ripped out, sacrificed forever. Because memories and certain feelings are not gonna stay with you if the physical, crystalline expression of that is gone. This is where everything is healing, right? But for certain memories and for us to hold a certain energy, we do need that piece of rock, photograph, antique, memory, ribbon, the vine, the pickle. We do need a piece of physical something to keep the memory truly locked into our lives. Sometimes this fixed grand cost takes everything away, and that leaves a void. But this is where the challenge lies. Who did the tragedy, the landslide, turn you into? Who is it birthing you into? And that's where you have all the power, all the juice, let's say. You will be the gardener of that. Materially, psychologically, in love and relationship, that landslide could have got you the relationship your comfortable house prevented you from ever being connected to. You know what I mean? Let's say that inner forces never ever could bring you into a situation where you have to ask for desperate help because you're that resourceful. Then there comes fate, and this is the way you meet the firefighter, the military personnel, the whatever, the strong man, with the muscle man. You would never meet that person ever. Would you have your power, the house, the skills, the mastery? But then nature comes, takes everything away, and you have no choice but to accept the person's, the paramedic, the, as I said, firefighter, the whatever person's help. You have to accept it. And then the spark, is born, and happily ever after. But the tragedy had to be there. So this is just a ridiculous example how these apparent dooms and glooms can be a saving grace, fatedly speaking. Because everything that you're made powerless, that is also where, the powerlessness, the power that was taken away was the bad power. Bad, not in the sense that you used it for bad, but you were too powerful and you kept yourself away from happiness with your power. Simply said, sometimes being way too powerful means we block out every source of happiness because that's our choice. Sometimes the universe has to come with a eraser and just, shoo it away, erase our power out from us. And the powerlessness becomes the new power. Pluto in Aquarius is so expert at these situations because this is quantum. This is where fate comes with also irony and with a strong sense of wisdom. Now let's speak about other energies which are much more delightful. Venus sextiling, being perfect on the 26th, Uranus. And Uranus is in Venus's sign, Taurus. So Venus has a strong influence here. Venus is very comfortable in the sign of Cancer. Inspiration, fantasy, the feeling, the hopes, the dreams, the love, the faith of others. We're powerlessness. Sometimes you cannot believe in yourself. You're, psychologically speaking, not in a very good place. But if everyone else in your life, Cancer, friends, family, people around you, are in a good place for you, as in, I know you, I trust you, I believe in you, I saw you go through difficult situations so very many times, and I just know that you're gonna be okay, even if you can't right now. You cannot imagine what a massive help that is. So this is also in the air. But other times, it's we are the person believing in another, where a family member, best friend, sister, brother, etc., etc., is really down, and we bring the faith, the Venus, to the table, as in, oh, it's okay, I believe in you. But especially if you're a spirited person, your I believe in you is much stronger than even a psychologist's. But when I say psychologist, just as a therapy session, in that sense, not that psychology or a psychologist is not a energy and a person who embodies exactly this Cancer, Venus in Cancer, because the person can be a psychologist. But when I say it is a big, brilliant moment of this, not an average session. This is a fantastic session when even the psychologist is healed by what they do. So a moment of grace, a moment when we are a divine muse, a moment when we are the channelers of divine love, and our efforts into helping another person, that is where, as I said, the power lies. That is where the solution and the blessing lies. Now, of course, there is a slight sprinkle of illusion. There is a slight sprinkle of we're not really getting the messages of the universe, of the divine, even or especially collectively, because Venus does square the galactic center. So we are a little bit, misguided in that sense. But of course, this in itself is, how should I say, a blessing in itself. Because it is exactly when we feel that the divine plan is too big for us. It is just washing us away. We have no power or greater understanding, of it. That is a blessing. Because that is also when we feel that the divine is 10 million times stronger than us, and all we can do is trust it and shut up. Now, this energy is not that new, because remember back in 2018 or 2019, I do believe 2019, when Jupiter held this ongoing square with Neptune, on and off, Jupiter retrograde, Neptune retrograde, breaking it up, reforming it again. So we had a good taste of what this means. Where even being lost, even being overwhelmed by the divine, synchronicities being almost like torrentially rained upon us, aggressively, and we don't understand it. We don't know what to make of it. But, one thing we could not ignore and one thing we could not unnotice, that something is working hard and being stirred up very, very strongly. And we are going to get this energy at this time. There's a mystery out there, but we don't know where it's guiding us, but all we can do is trust it. There's also a really positive energy at play here, where Saturn is also in the sign of Pisces, and it tries to ground this energy. I must say, it just trying, because let's not forget that Saturn is not its fixed and rigid and I'm gonna do it 100% the classic way self. Saturn has its own, rigid self, strongly challenged by the corrosive power of Pisces. So Saturn brings alternative solutions here, but it does bring solutions. Mercury sextiling Saturn. Mercury in the sign of Taurus. As I said, alternative solutions. And Mercury is still in shadow because it's going through, sorry, Mercury is in its shadow path. It is not yet out of the retrograde energies. And what I mean by retrograde energies is all the lessons, all the technicality, all the numbers, facts, nitty gritty of what has been dished down upon us under this Mercury retrograde. Now we're fixing it, solving it, using it, resources, doing it. With mind, with calculations, with numbers, with financial transactions, with work, but it's working. And the Saturn is allowing us to be adaptable. The Saturn is allowing us to find alternative measures, alternative solutions, and even alternative feelings. This is where we might see that the alternative is so much better than what we would have intended. So this is a really, really inspirational, positive, action-oriented, focus-oriented energy on the alternative. So it brings up solutions, it brings up, we're not defeated. We can cope. Now, another energy that I would like to speak about is Saturn holding an in conjunction, a quincunx with Mars, but towards the end of the week. Let me progress further into the week. So we can see the Mars quincunx of Saturn here. Now, this is also the energy of the heart. We cannot ignore this. But an in conjunction, a quincunx, links together two areas of the life which have absolutely nothing in common, nothing, link with each other. And we still, this is the challenge of it, we still need to bring a certain kind of wisdom or understanding to the table. So this quincunx can be used in many ways. For example, which moments of self-expression, Mars in the sign of Leo, are silly, are egoistic, are, not really gonna do a lot of good. For example, someone showing your beautiful cottage to a homeless person. You thought that it would inspire them and fill them with beauty, but it can put so much salt on their wounds that, it can give them a much worse time that they already have. Salt on wounds. So this is where we need to be careful with how we help. How we lend moral, emotional, stuff like that help. Because it can turn into salt and wound. And we had the best intention. We truly had, but it will go a bad way. But on the other hand, where our risks, Leo, our, moments of bravery, courage, when we just feel that we are gonna make it, or our action is gonna go a long way, it might go much further than we imagined. This is where, for example, where Mars shot the arrow and it wounded Chiron. Mars did not want this, did not anticipate this, but it happened. So let's use this in that sense where if we think it can go stray, we rather not do it, or we do it in a 100% inoffensive way, if you know what I mean. Through gestures, words, or whatever we think we are helping with, if you know what I mean. But the positive side of it, sometimes listening to that feeling in your heart, especially when you don't. That spark in you, well, it gets you into a, let's say, very surprising situation, which truly can come as a big delight, as something sweet as honey. You helping a person, a situation, a gesture. This is the essence of the quincunx. It can go either way, and we are really the judges here. We are both the judges and the subject of the judgment at the same time. And last but not least, I would also like to, speak a little bit about the asteroids and the dwarf planets, because there is also a strong activity there. And I wanted to go back a little bit to this Sedna, because Sedna is going to hold a trine with Pluto as soon as Pluto goes back to the sign of Capricorn. But the problem is that it is only for a brief moment, because Sedna herself is progressing into the sign of Gemini. So this is where their trine is outer sign, but for a very, very brief moment, perfected as such. And this trine is going to be reheld by both of these planets, because Sedna is going to go retrograde out of Gemini later on. But Sedna moves into Gemini in June. And Sedna is just as powerful in theory, of course, astrological theory, as Pluto, because she is one of the slowest moving asteroids. Planetoids. So a trans-Neptunian object, so her influence is very, very strong. And Sedna brings sacrifice to the table. Sacrifice, endurance, tolerance, but extremes of this. And Pluto trine, surprise, surprise, either the tolerance ends, surprisingly, and everything you sacrifice for is rewarded in ways that blow your mind, or there is some kind of help there. This is a very strong alchemical energy. When we alchemize a deep pain, a deep something that unpleasant, of course, that has been with us for a long time, years and years and years, and either that ends or that turns into, as I said, gold. Another energy which needs to be taken, into consideration, well, it is Pallas Athena, who will square Mercury. Our tactics, what we need to do, might not always go well with our hearts, in the sense that it's too hard, it's too putting yourself out there. I don't like to be brave and bold. I don't like to self-express. I don't like to shine. I don't like shyness. This kind of goes against shyness. But sometimes it is needed. There's no other way. And later on, the Sun is going to be sextiling this Pallas Athena. So, dare to express yourself, dare to shine, dare to be creative, dare to do things that you've never done before. For example, go on stage, do something public, dare to compliment that stranger on the street who really looks good or whatever, because as I said, this can bring a lot of positive surprises. Sun in the sign of Gemini, new friends, new acquaintances, new situations. You didn't even know how talented you are at something, singing, poetry, stand-up comedy, whatever. Try it. Try it out. If life brings you this is where when I say challenge, this is just the game. In your local pub or whatever, it's your turn to do karaoke or whatever. Dare to try it out, because you never know. And this can go so well with the quincunx, when the quincunx goes the right way, if you know what I mean. But of course, much, much later on, the Sun is going to hold a sextile with Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith is the primal inside of you. Now, you might be an introvert, a shy person, but everyone has an inner animal. Lilith in the sign of Leo makes us love the inner animal that much more. What is the inner? Our hunger, our lust, our self-centeredness. I am the star, my moment. But it has a lot of, like cats, for example, the feline spirit. The cat is infinitely selfish, but it's so lovable. Sometimes we do need to embrace those side of the energies as well. So, I would like to leave it at this. Thank you so very much for listening. And again, this fixed grand cross is not going to be easy. We might have a lot of down moments, but we must stay strong and accept help where it is. Even if it's weird, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's strange, help is still help. And again, faith, our deepest faith, and surrendering to the divine, allowing the divine currents to take us into a certain place, or allowing it for the divine to break our illusion. Neptune square the galactic center. This is a long-term ongoing energy. Neptune squaring the galactic center to disillusion us softly, gently, but with something much bigger than the illusion itself. That is gonna truly make a massive, massive difference. Maybe not right now. Right now, we don't see the immediate good, but soon we are gonna get there, because ultimately in July, the North Node does leave Taurus and enter Aries, and that is action time and work.